how did you stumble upon men's work? And actually, maybe if you could also elaborate a little bit on that, maybe there's men watching right now and they don't know they have any exposure to men's work. How would you describe it? What was your journey like?
Yeah, well, I should say that I think my step into this sort of field of self-development has been through, I would call transformational work, and I first came across it after sort of going through some crises in my own life. Okay, so, or sort of points in time, in quick succession, I married a woman here in London. She was from New Zealand, and we got married, and then it just rapidly went downhill, and I'm not even sure completely why, but it didn't last very long, and we ended up separating and divorcing within 5 to 6 months. And very soon after that, my dad got ill. He got bladder cancer, and it was terminal, and I ended up going back with him. So I went very quickly. I had a very big incidents in my life, and I actually then had some health problems on the back of that. Actually, the day my dad died, I had a gallstone attack, so I was in hospital the night my dad died.
Wow.
And the morphine, but it just triggered a real inquiry. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? And it led to me taking part in some transformational work with an organisation here in London called the Concord Institute. And this might all be new stuff, but it's a transformational program or institute which has been running for 20, 30 years. But it has lineage back to a lot of transformational work, which really, all it means is self-realization. It's sort of people interested in tapping into consciousness, becoming more conscious and more empowered in their lives. And what's interesting about Concord, and I think we'll come back to this later, is that food is a key part of their program. So a relationship to food, understanding of nutrition at a very deep level, cooking with consciousness, really. So. And what was very interesting about the programs they developed and still run is about coming into the body. So coming to the body through relationship with food, other body work, but then also having the discussion around what it is to be a human being. Why do we develop the way we do? Why do we carry these stories about ourselves? Why do we develop these characters that we end up fighting against in our lives? Why do we struggle? It actually just maps out. A lot of the programs are very powerful because they map out at the human condition why this stuff occurs. It's a long answer, but through that organisation, I first stumbled into men's work. So I think someone introduced me to there's a certain field of men's work. There's a facilitator called David Dada, who's worth looking at. Where the Superior Man. And his assistant actually runs courses. So I ended up doing a weekend course with him. And I was drawn to it just as I was curious, like most men, about what is it to be a man these days. And Dada's take on it is that it's very important that we understand the differences between the masculine and the feminine, and that we embody those energies and we understand them. And know this is, in all this talk these days about inequality, we lose sight of the fact that we're very different and that we require different things, and actually polarity is essential in strong, healthy dynamics and relationships. So I did a weekend workshop with Eli Buren, the guy's name is, which again was it was the difference for me of doing transformational work, which was men and women. So workshops, in a group space of 20, 30 people, it's a mix of men and women, very different to being being in a space with 30 men, and you're doing a little bit of exertion, physical exertion, body work, but a challenge, and speaking direct and plainly and honestly. And this is something we'll probably come around to, but that kicked off something for me, because on the back of it, the weekend, I found it very, very nourishing. And we were all invited to start doing a men's group, and I think about 10 of us from that workshop got together and said, right, we'll start a men's group. And essentially that ran for best part of 10 or 12 years, meeting fortnightly. It wasn't the same. There were about 5 members who stayed through, me being one of them. We stayed through the whole journey, and we had different people coming through, but that became a real touch point in my life, and very, very supportive in terms of just navigating life. You know, we were given a bit of structure to start with from the data, you know, some things to explore. But it ended up being very interesting because we ended up having a circular leadership. So each of us would take a time as a leader to actually run sessions and to introduce different things. We did, you know, group activities, and we ended up doing some sort of ventures together. I'm actually going to one of the guys in my group, I'm going to his stag weekend in a few months, you know.
Nice.
So we're still in contact, and even though we got together not as friends, we became quite key parts, almost like observers in our others' lives, and sort of advocates for each other and supporters for each other, going through different things. But maybe we can talk more about that if you have.
Sure.